How long have I been going for here for? Let's do one more chapter. All right. Let's look at 지않다. So we looked at an just now, and now we're going to look at 지않다. Now, 지않다 is similar to an, in that it negates verbs. When you attach 지않다 to a verb, it negates the verb, and it becomes a negative form. So instead of saying 저는 여행해요 is the thing I travel. 여행 is travel. 여행하다 is to do the action of traveling. So 저는 여행해요 would be I do travel. But 저는 여행하지 않아요 means I don't travel. 여행하지 않아요. I don't travel. This is using the 지않다 form to negate verbs. So what's the difference between 지않다 and an? So there's two main differences. One is that an is slightly more casual and slightly more used in spoken language. And 지않다 is slightly more formal and slightly more used in written language. But that's not a hard rule. You can use both in either, and people frequently do that. It's just a general tendency. The second rule is that an, they conjugate differently. So an is placed before the verb, and 지않다 is attached to the verb stem. But they both mean essentially the same thing. They both are used to negate verbs. Personally, I think I use 지않다 a bit more in general, because when you're starting to stack multiple grammar forms together, I find 지않다 more user-friendly, and also because it sticks on the verb stem, you don't have this problem with separable and non-separable hara verbs, whereas you have two ways to conjugate verbs with using an, depending if it's separable or non-separable. When you use 지않다, you use 지않다 for all verbs, and it's always the same process. So I find this one slightly easier to use, but it's totally up to you. You can use both. Native speakers use both all the time. It's just circumstance and personal preference. I do not have a YouTube channel, really, unfortunately. But you can follow and subscribe to us on TikTok. All right. What's the difference between 나요 and 하지마? Like 걱정하지 마. So 하지마 is like telling someone not to do something. So if you say like 걱정하지 마세요 or 걱정하지 마, it means you're telling someone to not worry. So don't worry about it. It's like it's a request or a command of somebody. If you're saying 걱정하지 않아요, it just means I am not worried, or she is not worried. So a slight difference between when you use the 지마, you're making a request. Yeah, when you're using 지마세요 or 지마, you're making a request of somebody. But if you're using 지않다, it's just I don't do something, or, you know. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so this grammar form has a couple forms depending on the tense you're using. So 지않다 is the dictionary form. Yeah, you're welcome. 지않아요 is the present tense form. 지않았어요 is the past tense form. And 지않을 거예요 is the future tense form. Thank you. So let's look at how to attach these to verb stems. So attach 지않다 to the verb stem of the verb. It does not matter if the verb stem ends on a vowel sound or a consonant sound. If you've been studying Korean for a while, you know that grammar forms often have two different conjugations depending on whether it ends on a vowel sound or a consonant sound. But 지않다 is not one of these. You just stick 지않다 on any verb all of the time and it's fine. So it's really easy to use. 먹다 becomes 먹지 않다. And in the present tense, what does that say? If you say I don't eat using 지않다, what does this become in informal polite language? 먹지. It becomes, anybody know? When you attach present tense on here, 먹지 않아요. Perfect. Anxious stem is exactly right. 먹지 않아요. All right. What about 공부하다? 공부하다 becomes, yep, 먹지 않아, you can also say, it's just the casual form, the 반말 form. This book is Conversational Korean Grammar. 공부하지 않아요. Perfect. Good job, Peebo and Co. 공부하지 않아요. Yep, and let's look at this last one. 재미있다. Ooh, hang on, let me try this again. 재미있다 becomes is there an effective way to keep practicing Korean? What should I do if I want a daily practice? My biggest advice to you is just to find ways that you enjoy, because ultimately I feel like language studying and learning a language should be fun. So yeah, anxious stem has got it right again. Perfect, good job. 재미있지 않아요. Because on 재미있지, and there's so many different ways to study nowadays. You can buy books if you enjoy like more formal studying. You can buy this book if you would like. You can watch YouTube. You can watch dramas. You can listen to music. There are so many ways. So I would recommend just finding things that you enjoy and sticking to them and just doing even a little bit every day. Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, there's apps you can do. I would recommend just playing around, experimenting. Everyone's different. Everyone likes to learn differently. And yeah, just have fun with it, basically. That's a great way. Reading children's books. Yeah, that's really fun. You can learn a lot doing that. Children's books can be harder than you expect. It's tricky sometimes. You can learn a lot of vocab though. And it's really fun, especially because they have usually lots of pictures as well. The pictures really help. Yeah, for sure. That's a great way. All right. So, let's do, yes, this book is on Amazon. You can purchase it from Amazon if you would like to buy it. How do we say I do not study? I do not study. In Korean, how would we write that in Korean using 지않다? I do not study. So we're going to use 저는. Anyone finish this sentence? 저는, I do not study. 저는 공부하지 않아요. This anxious stem, you are on it. You have got this. 공부하지 않아요. Perfect. And Peebo and Co as well. Yeah, great job. 저는 공부하지 않아요. I do not study. How would we say I don't study Japanese? Anyone know what Japanese is in Korean? Anyone know how to say Japanese in Korean? 일본. 일본 that's very close. That means Japan. But Japanese, so the language of Japan, yeah. 일본어, correct. 일본어를 공부하지 않아요. 저는 일본어를 공부하지 않아요. Yeah, plenty queer, that was great, perfect. Sunny is prettier than you. Yeah, 저는 일본어를 공부하지 않아요. Perfect, good job. Yeah, so that's 지않다. Let's do one more example. Let's do a descriptive verb. School isn't good. All right. So anyone know what school is in Korean? Yep, Abby got it as well. Abby Giru. 학교. Yeah, perfect. 학교 is school. School in general, there are different words for like different levels of school, like 대학교 is university and 중학교 is middle school, etc. But 학교 is school, and someone's already said the answer there, so great job there. But to say that school isn't good, 좋다 is the verb to be good. So yeah, J Daniel as well. 학교가 좋지 않아요. You guys have got it. Perfect. 학교가 좋지 않아요. School's not good. I don't like school. School sucks. 학교가 좋지 않아요. If you want to say school is good, that I like school, you would say 학교가 좋아요. 좋아요 is the oh, thanks. My handwriting's so bad, but thank you. I appreciate that. 학교가 좋지 않아요. Is school is bad or school isn't good, but 학교가 좋아요 means school is good. I didn't write the ui particle. If it looks like I did, it's just my my handwriting. But yes, ui is possessive. That's correct. So that is Gianta. Oh, in relation to learning a language? Yeah, I see. What made me start learning Korean? That's a good question. So I started learning Korean because my husband was going to be moved to Korea for work, and I thought, well, I may as well try and at least learn to read and write, at least try to learn some of the language so that I could get by in Korea when we lived there. I knew we were going to be there for at least a year, but possibly 2 years, so I decided to start learning Korean, and then actually just fell in love with it, honestly. I'm not living in Korea right now, unfortunately. I wish I was. I wish I could have lived there longer because I absolutely loved it. I was really sad, actually, to move back to the US. But yeah, I just fell in love with the language. I thought it was really interesting and fascinating. It just really hooked me. And when I was in Korea, I studied at a university there. So I was in like language school for like 4 hours a day, every day. And 100% Korean was like an immersion language school. Mokpo Taehakyo had one there. It was just like one of the best experiences of my life, honestly. So yeah, it was just amazing. I want to go back soon, hopefully. I loved the food in particular. The food is so good. Oh my gosh. I've had Korean food back here in the US and it's just not the same. It's so good. The food's amazing. The people were just wonderful. Such kind people, even though I lived in kind of a small town that there wasn't a big amount of English there. So I really had to use my Korean every day. And even though my Korean, when I was first learning, obviously my Korean, I really struggled, but everyone was so kind. Everyone was helping me out so much. And the landscape too. Oh my gosh. The hiking and everything there is just gorgeous. Like Korea is kind of similar to Japan where it's just all mountains. I lived in Mokpo. Mokpo is like the southwestern tip of Korea. So it's kind of a bit in the shigol, a bit in the countryside. But we lived right by the ocean too. The oceans there are really pretty. I loved it. Yeah. Okay, anyway, past tense just becomes 지 않았어요. It always becomes 지 않았어요. So, I didn't study becomes 제가 저는 공부하지 않았어요. So, 하지 않아요 is present tense, but 지 않았어요 is past tense. I didn't study. 제가 저는 공부하지 않았어요. What about Sarah didn't exercise? So how would you say this in the past tense? So Sarah, I can write it. Sarah, and you can use either nun or 이가. Let's just use nun. Sarah는. How do you say that she didn't exercise? If you can remember what exercise is in Korean. We've used it a couple times in other example sentences. Yeah, 태연 has it. Perfect. Sarah 운동하지 않았어요. Sarah가 운동하지 않았어요. People and Co's got it right. Got it. Gio's got it right. Sarah가 운동하지 않았어요. Perfect. You've or no particle as well if you want. 운동하지 않았어요. 사라는 운동하지 않았어요. 6VTX caret. I believe only the first one is correct. That second one I think is a misspelling. You might have come across it as just a spelling mistake, but yeah, it should be the first one. All right. Cool. And future tense, you add 지 않을 거예요. So, 지 않을 거예요. Tom은 요리하지 않을 거예요 means Tom won't cook. He won't cook in the future. Tom은 or Tommy 요리하지 않을 거예요. Now notice the difference again between using 안 and 지 않다. If you were saying using 안 in this sentence, you would say Tom은 요리 안 할 거예요. Because it's a separable 하다 verb. 지 않다 is 하지 않을 거예요. But they mean essentially the same thing. There's not a difference in terms of what they mean. It's just whichever one you want to use, really. Hey, we have one for lower. 학교가 좋지 않았어요. School was not good in the past tense. Good job. So, yeah, that's the future tense. And here I've talked a little bit, we've covered this already, what's the difference between 안 and 지 않다. 안 slightly less casual, slightly less formal, used more in spoken. 지 않다 slightly more formal, used more in written, but it's not a hard rule and they can both be used anywhere. It's just up to you.